I'm a citizen here in Allendale and a journalist as well. And um, I I saw that you were running for school board, and just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Do you have time for a short interview?
I've got a couple minutes if you don't mind some kids in the background screaming now and then.
Yeah, not at all. I love hearing kids, and uh, yeah, I hope they're having fun with that. Um, so
What you said you're a journalist? What organization are you with?
so I'm private organization, the Homes Politicast. I'm not affiliated with any like M Live or anything like that. It's just a podcast that I do looking into politics here in Ottawa County.
Okay.
All right. So, Troy, I guess my first question for you would be, what what made you want to run for school board?
Um, honestly it wasn't the most top of mind thing. A couple years ago, it was when my kids started getting into school. I have a second grader, a kindergartner, and a pre-K student right now. So when my oldest started getting into school and started getting to know some of the teachers that she had, um, and then seeing some of the issues that the students in her class were facing and issues that teachers were presented with on a daily basis, I decided to attend a board meeting one night, and it actually ended up being quite a passionate debate, I would call it, about a couple of issues that were in the school at that specific time last year, or a year or so ago, and it was that at that point in time that I decided that it was a good idea for myself and my family to start being involved with attending school board meetings and being more aware of what was going on with our children's education. And then as I started to attend the school board meetings and become more familiar with the process and things that were going on with the school, I felt a passion for being more directly involved in the direction of things that are, trying to be more directly involved in having a positive, I don't want to say positive say, but like helping to have a positive influence towards the direction of kids having a good educational experience, not just for my family, but for all of the families in Allendale.
Okay. So, what that sounds like a common story. A lot of parents have been doing
Sure.
that. What was? Do you mind sharing with us a little bit about what the passionate debate was?
It was surrounding, there was some questions surrounding material being presented to an elementary class, and um, the material itself was perfectly fine, and it was some of the parents were upset with material that was available online that was in no way available and accessible by students at all, but we're trying to, or we're making the connection that that was going to be taught to the students at some point in time, and it just simply wasn't the case.
Okay, so there was material. Just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You said there was material.
So, oh yeah, I guess I can clarify for you. It was an art class, and the students were being taught, they're first and second graders are being taught, colors and shapes and bright ways to present lines and colors. One of the artists that had very good material for students to see. For an example, is or was, he's deceased now, but was a homosexual individual in the 80s and 90s who was very active in AIDS and HIV community and being an advocate for those individuals. And there was a group of parents at that meeting that were taking umbrage with that artist being used because he was a homosexual individual, and not necessarily specifically the material that was being taught to the kids, but that the fact that the material came from a homosexual individual.
Okay.
And They were making accusations of indoctrination and grooming and things of that nature.
Okay. Now, is that material still available on Allendale's website, or is that available anywhere in the school that I could like look at the material and see what if there was any concerning things in there?
You would need to contact the superintendent about that. As far as I know, all of the material that was raised and questioned by those individuals was put under an academic review and was either approved or disapproved under a set and followed process that the school had in place at that point already.
Okay. All right. So I see here on your Facebook page that you posted about social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. You say, when given the same foundational importance as academics to a student's education, creates innumerable successes. Could you expound on that a little bit and explain kind of how social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion can enhance a student's academics?
I'm sorry if I stutter. I'm getting over an illness, so I'm having issues catching my breath at times.
Yeah, no problem.
Social emotional learning goes beyond, just making kids feel good or be nice to each other. It teaches kids how to regulate their emotions when they're having frustrations with a difficult learning task in a classroom, say, or how to regulate relationships and process things in a healthier way interpersonally with students. And all of those things allow a student to, they allow a student to,
no problem. Take your time.
Let's say, like my daughter has a very hard time with math.
Okay.
So the social emotional learning aspect that she has received in her minimal years in school has allowed her to learn mechanisms to address the emotions that arise with the frustrations of learning math, and instead of simply just giving up on it, has allowed her to approach that subject in a different manner emotionally that allows her to be successful versus just giving up on it. It also allows students with disabilities to be more brought into everyday learning with the kids, and it allows the kids to help those other students learn as well. And then and that ties in also with the DE&I is traditionally a lot of learning materials have a white or Caucasian based learning. For example, we'll go back to math again. For example, like a lot of younger kids do like word problems for math where it's a short story with the numbers in it, and then at the end it asks you if, they have 10 of this and they give 5 of this away, how many is left. Typically in traditional textbooks, a lot of those stories contain culturally Caucasian white names, and are not necessarily containing like names of other cultures or backgrounds, or I guess you know what I'm saying. So not in statistically, Allendale is 82% white and 18% minority. So that's not for every student, but there are students in the system right now that identify with a name or a culture or a social structure that isn't the historical one that Allendale has represented. And if we start to include materials that have names in them with names and stories and examples that are representative of a wider basis of social, economic, and cultural backgrounds, it allows those students to connect with that problem and that schoolwork on a more personal level. And when a student does that and connects with it on a more personal level, it allows them to learn better, and it gets them more engaged with the material.
Okay.
Did I make sense, I guess, on that a little bit? I feel like I kind of rambled for you a little bit. But...
No, that made sense. I understood what you were trying to get to. So there's been a lot of controversy surrounding just the idea of DE&I. I'm sure you're aware of the recent flip in the county board of commissioners, basically running on this issue. And so there is a claim that, and I've seen some of this myself, that diversity, equity, and inclusion is often used to teach things like white guilt, like the idea that the institutions in America are in general racist. Would you agree with those aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or is this just strictly limited to you want more representation of certain names within story problems, or more representation of different cultures?
As far as the assertion that the systems in culture are inherently racist, you're basically describing what is commonly called CRT or critical race theory. And I have specifically addressed that with the school already and the superintendent, and at the county level as well. And specifically, CRT teachings are not taught in any K-12 school in the state of Michigan, and I have specifically addressed that with superintendent as well. I have a post on my Facebook page. I don't know if you come across it or not, talking about CRT, but in my opinion, directly talking about like racial systems in the society, that's more of a collegiate level thing. That's not something that a kindergarten needs to be learned. That does not need to necessarily mean that, yes, DE&I is not important. And I think for a K-12 situation, more the situation where I described, where more diverse and inclusive and culturally expansive materials is where we start. And the white guilt. I'm sorry, I forgot the white guilt. I think that's an unfair assessment of DE&I, saying that DE&I is taught to use white guilt and CRT in that aspect. I mean, certainly an individual could use those systems to do that. However, I think on the flip side, you can just as easily use those tools to teach about white abolitionists during the period of time in our history where slavery is present. It's not necessarily, you don't have to teach that white people had slaves and that's bad and you should feel guilty about it. You can use it to teach things like there were white people that tried to free the slaves. Abraham Lincoln is the prime example. And you can highlight the positive side of recognizing those issues and highlight people of color and not color that were champions of social justice at that time as well. That doesn't even bring forth any form of white guilt or anything of that nature.
Okay. So I think now you may not be aware that there is actually a teacher from Grand Haven that has publicly pledged that they will be teaching critical race theory, some of these things that come into diversity, equity, and inclusion within her classroom. So I'm not saying that you're.
Okay. Yeah, so, I wasn't aware of that. Has that claim been run through the approval process of the school and is actually going to happen, or is that a claim that the teacher has just made?
So that's just a claim that the teacher's made, as far as I know. I know the school board, they're going through the same kind of issue where they've got a bunch of people running, and there are a lot of claims. I'm not sure if you're aware of their problem with embezzlement, but they're going through, that problem, the problem of, being, there's a lot of books that have been in Grand Haven Public Schools that teach, a lot of, there's one that actually gives instructions for gay sex, and a lot of different, very concerning things that genderqueer, and there's another one, This Book is Gay. So kind of moving in that direction as a school board member, what would be your approach to having these kinds of books within the school, to addressing parental concerns about teachers teaching sexuality to their children?
Well, to start, any book that is currently in the school or that gets added to the school goes through a very thorough process. It doesn't just simply get added by a school board. Currently in Allendale, for any book that wants to get added, the teacher first has to propose the addition of the book to their curriculum. That goes through I'm drawing a blank on the title of the person it goes to. It goes to the curriculum director, I believe is the official title. The curriculum director reviews any material proposed, brings forth actually goes to the principal, then it goes to the curriculum director. Both of those people vet that process or vet that suggestion. Both people present their findings, both positive and negative, and if they feel that it warrants being passed up the chain, it gets put to the next person. If that at any time if they feel that it is not meeting the guidelines already set in place by the school, it's a full stop. It doesn't go any further. It goes to the curriculum director. They compile their report. It goes from there to the superintendent. The superintendent reviews it. Again, gives it a very thorough review based on all guidelines set in place by board policy. Once it gets past gets to the superintendent and they approve it, it goes before the board, and then the board reviews the material and votes on it based on current board policy and all current guidance by what the superintendent has saying versus and also I know the last time books got passed through Allendale, some of the board members took the time to read the book, and some of the board members put forth minimal effort and Googled a few highlights and went with that.
Mm-hmm.
As a board member, I would be on the side of if it's worth adding to our school, it's worth me reading that book and understanding that book and not just getting what Google tells me is good or bad.
Okay.
And I personally would take into consideration what the book has in it, what the age group is it's going to be, and what use the book has. And then, there's as a board member, I'm always open to public comment and input from the public on their feelings on any subject. That anyone is, welcome to come to a board meeting. And then I would vote based on all of that information. I simply would not use just my faith, or I would not just use my political opinion, or I would not use just my personal opinion. I would use all available data, input from experts like the superintendent and the curriculum director, whose job it is to research that material and give me the most thorough data that I have on it, and use all of those things to determine whether a book is appropriate or not to be added.
Okay. So, do you mind if I just give you an example here? So, this book. So let's speak about a specific book. So I understand the review process and all that stuff. What I'm concerned about is that sometimes books make it through that review process and it goes before the board. And you've said that you will be reading the book, thoroughly understanding it. So say you're reading a book and you come across something instructing children on the ins and outs of gay sex. And it has a part in it as the book, this book is gay does, where it says it teaches about hand jobs, and it says something to the effect of, if your partner is used to hand jobs, you may need to revise your method there. It's a lot about wrist action. You may need to rub the head of the penis, and a bad hand job is grabbing the penis and shaking it like a ketchup bottle. Now, that was very explicit, and I apologize for bringing that in front of you, but that's a book that's been found in public schools. If you were reading that book and that was up for review and it came before the board, what would be your response there?
My first question would be what students is this book being presented to be given to? Is it middle school? Is it high school? Is it an AP level class? Where is, that's my very first question is, where is this book intended to go, and what is the intended use for this book? I have not read the book, and I can't comment on, other than what you read to me on that. I would say something of that nature would warrant some very serious consideration on where it was available in the school and the intended uses for it. I think there is more consideration for a more graphic nature of a book for an AP course, which is considered to be a collegiate level course that is a voluntarily signed on course. Something in a coursework of that level would get more consideration than something in a coursework of a 9th through 12th grade coursework where it is still a high school setting, whereas an AP course is considered collegiate level and students volunteer or request to join those classes and is considered to be adult material at that point because it is collegiate level.
Okay.
On the phone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just one more question here for you. I think. No, you're running kind of against. Would it be your direct competition? I think so. So you're endorsed by the teachers union. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
And so there's a group. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware of Ottawa Impact that has endorsed Liz Ramey and Corey Mango.
Yep.
And I know that group has been quite successful within Ottawa County. What are your thoughts on the Ottawa Impact group and the stance that they're taking? Yeah, I think that's about.
I think as far as like SEL and DEI and CSE and things of that nature, are you referencing, or their whole approach to their take on the board, or?
Yeah, so
in general,
I think the statement that they've signed would be a great place to start. I'm not sure if you've read that whole statement.
I have. It's been some time, but I have gone thoroughly through their website. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just start with the statement that they've signed. Do you find that to be? I know some people have characterized it as extreme. Do you find that analysis to be accurate?
Extreme is a pretty extreme word, pardon the pun. I think philosophically, yes, I myself and Ottawa Impact are on opposite ends of the spectrum, like you said. I think being on the opposite side of things philosophically is a difficult position to be in, but I also strongly believe that at the core of things, I very much passionately love my children and want the absolute best for them, and I very much believe that Liz Ramey and Corey Mango very much passionately love their children and want the best for them, and I think that no matter where we stand on our ideas, we have that common ground to start with, and I think we can work from there to find some common, school board isn't political, but to give it a political reference, we can cross the aisle and be bipartisan on things if we both start from the fact that what we're doing is for our kids. It is a little concerning to me that they have signed a pledge to follow guidelines that a vetting committee has put before them before they will endorse them. I personally believe that your number one and first and foremost commitment should be the students, the parents, and the community, and not a pledge that you have signed to follow. But if I will quantify that by saying, one moment please, Marley, I'm on the phone. I will quantify that by saying, in the situation that I win and Liz wins, or I lose and Liz wins, I am certainly going to do my absolute best effort to work with any Ottawa Impact candidate to find that common ground and find those wins and those successes that we can both celebrate together for the betterment of our students.
Okay. I really appreciate that. That was very well worded and very articulate. Love hearing that from a candidate, that they're willing to work with others. And yeah, so thank you so much, Troy Lampen. I've taken enough of your time, I think, tonight. I'm going to let you get back to your kids. They seem to be vying for your attention right now. So
it's getting close to supper time.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little hangry.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm cooking supper right now.
Your name was Don, you said?
Yes.
Or Doug?
Don.
And you said you do a podcast?
I do, yes.
Could I get that name so I could look it up and maybe find this interview on there when you do air it?
Yeah, so it's called the Holmes Politicast. And I can actually...
School.
The what?
Actually, you've been on my Facebook. Would you mind emailing it to me on that email I have on the Facebook?
No, not at all. I see it's right here, Troy for APSboard@gmail.com.